2020. This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com. I just finished an hour and 42-minute Skype interview with Irv Mushnick, who has written books on the Benoit tragedies, written about the Jimmy Snuka murder situation. He was featured in the Jimmy Snuka episode of Dark Side of the Ring. That was a very interesting conversation. I'm going to be posting clips of that starting soon. I got an interview with Jacques Rougeau tomorrow, Terry Runnels on Friday. So big week so far. But Raw, on the other hand, as my viewership continues to grow, WWE's continues to fall. Raw hit another record low last night, down from the previous week's record low, 4% lower this week, scoring a 0.56 rating and a 1,842,000 viewers. So this Drew McDonald guy they're pushing obviously isn't getting them too many new viewers. That all of the WWE wrestlers that were released last week are getting paid 90 more days. So apparently there are some websites circulating rumors that, well, those wrestlers are still getting paid for 90 more days. They might be used here and there, which would be unusual, but apparently it might happen. Rob Gronkowski, who many people have had bad complaints of for his wrestling appearances, has reportedly signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and will be returning to the NFL. Also, Oliver Luck, the former XFL commissioner, is suing WWE over damages related to his firing. He was believed to have had a $20 million salary with the XFL. Of course, Vince McMahon took out almost $400 million XFL, but he has since closed the XFL and is attempting to file bankruptcy so he doesn't have to pay the rest of his creditors. So we'll see how that works out. In other news, MMA Fighting is reporting that UFC 249 is going to take place on May 9th in Florida, since MMA is allowed in Florida now, just like wrestling, with no public watching. Sources are claiming, including ESPN, that Francis Ngannou is going to fight, and I'm sorry I cannot pronounce this guy's name properly, but Jairzinho Rozenstruik in a heavyweight fight. I know who Francis Ngannou is. The other guy I may have seen, but I really have no idea how to pronounce his name. PFL so far, according to Dave Meltzer, has just been a money pit. They're saying now they're not going to start doing shows again until 2021. They haven't really had any financial successful shows thus far, according to the Wrestling Observer. Former Memphis Wrestling manager and historian Travis Scott Bowden passed away at the age of 48, and somebody claiming to be a WWE employee made an anonymous complaint to the Orange County Board of County Commissioners in Florida, saying that the stay-at-home order should affect WWE wrestlers and talent, as they are unable to speak out because they need their job. And with the job that they do, they have to touch other people and can't comply with social distancing. And we don't know, that was an anonymous complaint, so we don't know exactly who that came from. But certainly you would think that talent working for WWE might be afraid to speak out, considering they just released a ton of talent and members of other departments in the WWE. So obviously, if you're viewed as a complainer, that's obviously not going to be looked upon favorably. Maybe it's a little different if you're a big star like Roman Reigns, who has some pull, but for a lower level guy, probably wouldn't be a good idea to complain. The Rock said in an article today that he wasn't good with fans until about his mid-20s. And I am a huge fan of The Rock, as you guys have probably realized through my various updates. But I did have an encounter with him. I think it was a night or two after Survivor Series in '96. WWE did a show in Hull, Quebec, because in those years they didn't go to the big arena in Ottawa. They went across the river to a connected town we have in Quebec. There's a smaller arena that they would run. They probably only had about 1,000 people that night, and that was with Austin, Triple H, The Rock, Mick Foley, Sable was on the card. But I do remember specifically as a kid, I think I was in grade 8 at the time, in that arena, you had to walk out the back if you were a wrestler to get to the parking lot where the talent parked, and you had to walk past the fans. So it was a good arena for kids to ask wrestlers for autographs at. And I remember The Rock specifically, he was new. He put his elbow up over his face like this and said, "Fuck off, kids." And he went and he sat in this car that the Sultan was actually in as well, and I forget who was driving. But I remember the Sultan rolled down his window and signed autographs for everybody while The Rock just kind of sat there with his head down. So I am a huge fan of The Rock, and that story saying that he didn't start acting nice to fans till his mid-20s collaborates with that incident pretty well. I'll read a couple of your comments. Mike Dest is asking me about Lanny. What did Lanny tell me about Macho Man and Stephanie? Well, he didn't tell it to me on the record, so I can't come out and say it. And he won't do another interview with me. And he's back on good terms with WWE, so I doubt he's going to say it now. But you're probably talking about the video I posted of Lanny's or Macho Man's ex-girlfriend, Gorgeous George, who Macho Man used as a manager in WCW, alluding to the fact that Randy told her something about that situation. And you do have to think about that situation. Who other than Macho Man that didn't die was not used by WWE between the time WCW was sold and the time he passed, which was about 10 years in between? WWE did not use him, considering he was one of the biggest names in the history of both WWE and WCW. You have to wonder what happened as to why they wouldn't try and make up with him and use him during those years. So a lot of people always speculated there was some serious bad blood there for whatever reason. Super Soki 13 says, "Good morning, mate. Did I watch Ted Riley versus Babyface last night?" Van Albright says, "I do. I have no interest in watching wrestling." Flick Club Entertainment, a big fan of ours. His real name's Jeff. He's currently watching the Val Venus shoot interview on his TV. And yes, I just released my 2-hour plus 2020 shoot interview with Val Venus. I suggest you all watch it. Adam Gaddis says, "Thank you." KW says, "King Kong Bundy spit on me once when I was a kid." Disco Inferno says, "The Sultan is Rikishi." By the way, thank you to the podcast that Disco Inferno does with Conan. They talked about one of my clips with Buff Bagwell, who claimed that he had an issue with Conrad Thompson at StarCast. They actually credited me for mentioning my interview in their podcast. Steve Austin has also done that numerous times. Conrad Thompson is one guy that uses quotes from my interviews all the time and never credits me, which makes him a bit of a scumbag in my book. Some strange questions in here. I'm looking forward to the day WWE goes the way of Capital Wrestling and we get legit shooters and hookers to represent the sport, 2006 War Eagle says. I don't know about that, but I do think it's a good thing that WWE's popularity is going down and down. It'll allow for other companies to potentially pop up, hopefully. Big Richard says, sweet background. Am I giving up my Canadian citizenship for an American one? Well, I would love to live in the States. It's freezing cold out there. We actually had snow today, so I'm really sick and tired of the snow and cold. I've been running 5 to 6 nights a week, 10 miles in the wind and cold. I've had enough of it. Ping223 says he saw my buff clip. Malaface is going the Conan Slow show. Someone says, what if Zack Ryder slapped me? He would never slap me because he knows I could easily beat him up. No problem at all. If he did attempt to slap me, I would double leg him and ground and pound him out. And I have been getting tons of feedback on the story I told from Deep South about what's his name? Luke Gallows giving the naked stink faces to Zack Ryder's. Somebody questioned and said, oh, I heard it was only one donut because the point was to squish the jellied donuts on Zack Ryder's face. No, there was like a box of donuts and they went through the whole box. But also there was someone else involved in the other corner. It was a female. So that makes the situation even worse. So Gallows was going from corner to corner doing the donut stink faces to Zack Ryder and the female. Can I do a What Wrestlers Think of Jim Cornette compilation? Yes. By the way, over 8,000 people voted for me to do a Dynamite Kid compilation video next. So I will be doing that. I did one about Rick Rude. We just passed the anniversary of his death yesterday. James699, when's the Terry Reynolds interview canceled? She canceled last week, but she's redoing it on Friday, she says. Big Richard, the Dino Bravo episode of Dark Side of the Ring is coming out tonight. I think Jacques Rougeau is in that one. I'm going to ask him about it tomorrow. The Game Hunter says he wants blood sport type of events to happen. It would be interesting, but I honestly like the people involved in the blood sport events, but I didn't like the concept. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Daniel Franzak says it's 83 there in Florida today. That's pretty good. Oh, and by the way, the other reason I like the U.S. better than Canada is only 70% of my viewers are Canadian, over 80% are Canadian. So it's not just the cold. And someone else says, Finrod Numis Nice, I want a new Ron Fuller shoot. Very possible, or one with Jim Cornette. I get asked about Jim Cornette every day. You're going to have to tweet to him to do one with me because he keeps telling us no. John Gallagher, what was my all-time favorite territory? I would say Stampede and Bill Watts' Mid-South territory. Son Wood, have I ever gotten stink face? No, not into that. I would not agree to that unless there was massive amounts of money being offered to me, but not for independent wrestler pay or to get out of a practice. Someone says, when I was 12, I met Hardcore Holly in Mobile. I asked what it took to make it in the WWE, and he said, you got to wrestle stiff if you want to make it, baby. KW, I'd like to see you touch base with Billy Jack again. Well, his phone's been disconnected. I know he was living with Rip Oliver, who's now dead, so I honestly have no idea what happened to him. I hope he's okay. I went to grade school in Winnipeg, and Canadians were very polite. Mike S. says, I would say, in my experience, Canadians are no more polite than Americans. There's a lot of very rude and arrogant Canadians. Same with Americans. There's a lot of nice Canadians, a lot of nice Americans. In general, American people have more respect for athletes than Canadians. I do realize that. You're treated better in the US if you look like an athlete than Canada. But as far as niceness to rudeness, Canadians are not more polite. And this is coming from a guy that's worked in the bar industry for years. John Gallagher says, bring back Lethal Larry Cameron from Stampede. Adam Gaddis says, love the new Buff Bagwell interview. I want to see the whole thing. It's posted at patreon.com/thehannibaltv. Flick Club Entertainment, would I interview Tammy Sitch? Yes. Sean Wood, would I have a cat-related match with Teddy Hart? I'm retired. I'm not wrestling anymore. Stone Roses 1989 says Canada sucks now. Ellie E says, have I ever been to Japan? Do I have a desire to travel over there? I would have liked to have wrestled over there, but now that I'm not wrestling, I don't really have a desire to go over there. Ray Rosini, did I ever attend a Maple Leaf Gardens show? No, I guess I'm too young for that. Do an interview with Ed Leslie. I do have an interview with Brutus Beefcake on here. Japolson asked me. Maybe one day I'll interview him again. What current Canadian promotion is the most successful? John Arsenault said, well, Great North Wrestling is the most popular worldwide Canadian promotion by far. We have the biggest platform, the Hannibal TV, by far the most popular pro wrestling YouTube channel based in Canada. No one even comes close to us. We've been around for 13 years. We've used all the top stars. There's other good ones out there for sure, but as far as the best worldwide known Canadian promotion, it's definitely Great North Wrestling. Fan of the business. Who do I have in mind for upcoming shoots? I guess anyone that's willing to do Skype interviews and is a name in professional wrestling. Since I can't travel, the US-Canada border's closed. I really just want to get as much content out there as possible. So anyone listening to this that has been in WWE, WCW, ECW, I'd even consider some other leagues, you could contact me. And female wrestlers are really popular on this channel too, if you're a successful female wrestler. Does GNW have a training facility? No. As I've said on here before, I've trained wrestlers and I've never made any money at it. I've taken more punishment because I've taken the moves when I was training the wrestlers and they don't know how to throw you properly. A lot of them don't really have the heart to go far in the business and end up quitting on you. And it's just a real pain in the ass and you don't get anything out of it. So I don't think I'm ever going to train anybody again. That's for sure. I would suggest Santino Marella in Toronto Battle Arts Academy. That is by far the best training facility in Canada. None even come close. Lance Storms was good, but it's closed now. So I'll close it at that. Make sure you subscribe. We're on Twitter and Instagram at The Hannibal TV. I'm at Twitter at Devin Hannibal. Thanks a lot for your question and comments. Last thing, Dr. Love says the hottest women are in Vancouver. The hottest women in Canada are in Montreal. I can tell you that from someone that's traveled across Canada. We do have a lot of beautiful women here, but Montreal is the best city for beautiful women by far.